7 o'clock. Good morning, Tony Matthews with ABC News. Malcolm Turnbull supporters are voting in and insisting his demands be met before a party room meeting can be called. Jen Williams reports from Parliament House.
The Prime Minister has lost the support of his colleagues, but he's refusing to call a meeting to spill the leadership until he sees a petition with 43 names on it. Conservatives are incensed and are demanding the leadership be settled today. But Liberal MP Melissa Price says the process must be followed.
They haven't got enough signatures to satisfy the first hurdle.
Cabinet Minister Christopher Pyne has warned his colleagues they're making a mistake.
No one has publicly stood up and given a reason as to why the Prime Minister and the government need to change.
If the leadership positions are filled, there's likely to be a three-cornered contest between Peter Dutton, Julie Bishop and Scott Morrison. The nominees for deputy are expected to be Josh Frydenberg, Greg Hunt and Steve Chobo. Mr Turnbull has said he will not stand.
The Liberal leadership aspirant Peter Dutton has released new legal advice from a former Solicitor General who is eligible to sit in the Parliament.
Invalid advice.
It forbids MPs from having a financial relationship with the Commonwealth, and Mr Dutton has an interest in childcare centres that receive Commonwealth subsidies. The current Solicitor General is this morning expected to deliver his advice about Mr Dutton's eligibility. Senator Zed Soldier last night rejected suggestions that Mr Dutton could be in trouble.
This appears to be just a red herring to somehow prevent Peter Dutton from becoming Prime Minister of Australia. And today, when it was considered by the House of Representatives, the House of Representatives chose not to approve.
Meanwhile, Peter Dutton was elected office who firstly has been vandalised overnight. Police say brick pavements were thrown at the front of the building at Strathpine just before 2 o'clock this morning. 6 windows have been smashed and the 2 front doors have football-sized holes in the laminated glass. Police have appealed to witnesses. The director of a $20 million investment fund has admitted to using...
Okay. That's the state of play here within Australia. The apparently ungovernable. So for those of my overseas subscribers and viewers who haven't been paying attention, here in Australia, at the moment, we have a sort of a lame duck Prime Minister who's managed to withstand a leadership spill which he brought upon himself on Monday in order to wrong foot the major challenger, who's a time-expired Queensland policeman dating from the days when the Queensland Police had one of the highest deaths in custody rates of any law enforcement organisations on the planet. And this Peter Dutton character, the bloke who looks like a reptilian and embodies all the worst features of the Queensland Police, Peter Dutton's been getting gingered, worked up, fed lines by Tony Abbott, the ex-Australian right-wing Liberal Prime Minister, who was ousted by Malcolm Turnbull, the current Liberal Prime Minister. And the theory is that there are 42 people who've signed a petition saying that they want Peter Dutton to lead the Liberal Party. And in Australia, it's a little bit like the way we run our town councils. When the local government elections are on, you vote to put people onto the council, and once the council is elected, then they go into the town hall and the meeting room, and they have a vote among themselves to elect their leader, and that becomes your mayor, and your second in charge becomes the deputy mayor. Well, In Australia, we vote for our local members of parliament, and some of them are in parties and some of them are independent. And last time we had a general election, the Liberal Party plus the National Party in coalition had one more seat in Parliament than the Labor Party did. So therefore, the Liberal Party and the National Party got to form the government. But the people of Australia don't actually get a vote or a say in who is the leader of the Liberal Party or who is the leader of the National Party. The local member of parliament here in New England, Barney Baby Joyce, he used to be the leader of the National Party. He used to therefore be the Deputy Prime Minister, because when they're in coalition, the Liberal Party's leader always gets to be the Prime Minister and the National Party's leader always gets to be the Deputy Prime Minister. Well, just as the Liberal Party had no say in the fact that the National Party stuck to Barnaby until he finally eventually resigned, as I call it, in the face of sexual assault allegations against a Western Australian Liberal Party member. Those allegations have yet to be dealt with. But anyway, today's the day the Liberal Party decides who its leader is, and it's complicated by the fact that nobody is eligible to sit in Parliament if they have any financial arrangement with the Commonwealth Government or the Commonwealth Public Service. And Peter Dutton, the bloke who's challenging, the bloke who's brought all of this on, he and his wife have a family trust fund which owns some childcare centres, and the childcare centres are subsidised by the Commonwealth Government Public Service. And although Peter Dutton has released legal advice that he has, the legal advice from an ex-Attorney General pertains to the old law dating back to April last year, and the old law has been superseded by a new law. So we're waiting for what the Solicitor General says as to whether Peter Dutton has been eligible to sit in Parliament since the law has been changed, because he neglected to divest himself from his family trust fund's ownership of childcare centres that are in receipt of Commonwealth funding. Therefore, Scott Morrison, the Treasurer, he wants to stand, and Julie Bishop, she wants to stand, and in all likelihood, if the Palace coup conspirators can between them muster 43 brave souls to sign the bit of paper, then Turnbull will grant them their leadership spill. If they can't come up with the 43 signatures, he looks as if he's planning on trying to tough it out. If he grants them the spill, he's also planning on resigning from Parliament, which means that the Liberal Party will be facing a by-election after chaotically throwing government to the winds, because at the moment the lower house is in adjournment until the 10th of September. We have no government in Australia at the moment, no functional government. This is the best fun I've had since 1975 at the dismissal. And my feeling, why don't you come out of there? Really, it's not a good place for a chuff to be. Trapped on the other side of the Wright Brothers flyer. Finally, as I was going to say, I reckon it's time the Governor-General called Turnbull into his office and told him that the Liberal Party and the National Party were unable to govern Australia and were due to have an election by May next year anyway. So how's about we just dissolve both houses and appoint Bill Shorten as a caretaker Prime Minister, and he calls an election and we see where we stand. Because at the moment, not to put too fine a point on it, ungovernable. And the crony, capitalist, corrupt, crypto, neo-fascists are about to make their move. That's what Peter Dutton's all about. He wants to shift the Liberal Party and therefore Australia further to the right. He's a populist politician. He thinks, for some reason, some strange, fantastic reason that at this point in time, with atmospheric carbon dioxide concentrations punched up through 410 parts per million, with Australia in the worst drought that I think we've really ever had for over 100 years, he thinks it's a responsible thing to do to dangle the shibboleth of cheap electricity in front of the sheeples, the people who live in the towns and the suburbs. What makes him or them think that it is a human birthright to have electricity jump out of the walls almost for free? 15 cents a kilowatt hour, 35 cents a kilowatt hour. None of the people who are whinging about the price of power have ever attempted to produce their own electricity. They don't know what it costs. They just know that they grew up using lots of it and never thinking about the price of it, and they object to having to think about it now. And to be honest, I really don't see why anybody would want to put their hand up to be responsible for governing Australia. 100% of New South Wales is drought declared. Over 60% of Queensland is drought declared. We're sitting on a bushfire fuel bomb. Western Australia has run out of hay to send to New South Wales to feed the livestock. Why would you want to be responsible for leading Australia out of an autumnal winter drought wherein that we've lost 54.6% of our rainfall, and July was 1.73 degrees hotter than July in 2007 when the millennial drought was on, going into an El Nino spring? Why would you want to be in charge of trying to respond to that? However, that's what's going on today in Canberra. If the signatures can appear on the petition, then we're going to have a leadership spill. If we have a leadership spill, maybe we'll get Peter Dutton, but maybe not, because he might not be fit to sit. He may be wiped out entirely, in which case we're either going to have Prime Minister Morrison, or we're going to have Julie Bishop. And my guess is the Liberal Party will vote to put a woman in the hot seat and let her try to save the family silver. Such is life in ungovernable Australia. The fascists have made their play for power, and we don't yet know how terribly incompetent our government will be. Maybe we'll be able to tell you that this afternoon at 5 o'clock. With any sort of luck, something will have crystallised. Pretty much the simple fact that Malcolm Turnbull says that he's resigning from Parliament if he has to grant the spill motion. It means the Liberal Party faces at least a by-election when they're horribly unpopular, and then they can lose their majority and therefore they've lost government. Or Turnbull might decide that they can't show him a petition with 43 signatures, so he's not going to give them the spill motion. And upwards of 9 members of his cabinet will resign from the ministerial posts and go to the backbenches, and he won't have a government, and it could get messy. Some of the Liberals and some of the Nationals say that they won't sit with the government or move to the crossbenches if Peter Dutton gets command. Because nobody likes fascists, Peter. And of course, just as Peter Dutton is seen to have vandalised the Australian Liberal Party and the parliamentary system, apparently somebody vandalised his office, throwing bricks through windows, which was kind of appropriate, I suppose, in a karmic sort of a way. Although one cannot condone violence, nobody likes fascist scumbags. So, vote green or die, because global warming culls. And at the moment, Australia appears to be right on the edge of becoming cold. It looks as if This could be the year that global warming turns Australia into a post-industrial failed state. And we have a bunch of clowns playing deck chairs on the Titanic in Canberra. Warbles on a lot to YouTube. Ciao.